So today we host ESA and ESA KM team. ESA is the European Space Agency that was established in 1975 and founded by 22 member states. And since 2017, ESA set in place a comprehensive KM initiative, initially to address ESA employees' needs and challenges in terms of knowledge and information management. ESA KM team is made of 6 KMers. Let's start with the head, who is Gianluigi Baldesi. He is a senior manager at the European Space Agency with more than 15 years of technology leadership experience in assessing and executing complex projects for future aerospace missions in a cross-cultural environment. Currently, he is in charge of leading the corporate knowledge management activities and coordinating corporate strategic planning for the agency. We have also Alfonso Fresneda, joined the team in 2017, and his main activities are framed in the knowledge from information and the data area of the ESA KM plan. He worked as a computational linguist and was an information knowledge manager since 2003 at different organizations like Santander Bank and Yellow Pages. We have also Andrew Erd. He is the senior ESA knowledge management expert and ESA lesson learned administration lead. He's also a senior expert in establishing a systematic framework and process for KM in ESA largest directorate. Among the other positions, he has worked as a standardization senior engineer and as operations safety manager. He established the process, methods, and tools for safety control implemented by ISS crew in ESA procedures. Also trained the ESA ASCANs, the future astronauts. Ronnie Owen is the head of ESA Library. He worked for more than 10 years as a consultant for Bureau van Dijk Management Consultants, where he was mainly charged with missions that focus on econometrics and operational research. He was also coordinating the development of databases, and in 2000, he recruited, trained, and started up the Bureau van Dijk team in the ESA libraries. We have also Stefania Pandolfi, works since 2018 as a knowledge manager engineer. Among other things, she is responsible for the internal and external communication and promotion from the KM activities at ESA. Previously, Stefania worked also as a researcher in astrophysics and then moved to CERN, the European Laboratory for Particle Physics, working as a science communication officer. There is also Christine Talmart in the team. She cannot join us today, but she's an important part of the team. She joined ESA in 2014, and from 2017, she works as a knowledge management engineer, supporting the definition and implementation of the agency knowledge management plan. So this being said, let's start with the presentation. Gianluigi, the stage is all yours.
Thank you so much for the kind of invitation. Discussing with Ginetta a few months ago, it's identifying this opportunity to come here and to share with you our experience on building knowledge management at agency, and I fully embrace our value of sharing and openness. We are here with the whole team, and we try to make this knowledge cafe as interactive as possible. So here we had a corporate video which will be available and will provide a quick overview more graphically of what is the agency. And as you said, the agency is based on 22 member states, which are our shareholder, mostly European, but also we have a special agreement with Canada, for instance, which is outside Europe. The agency has quite a wide range of activity and, of course, of expertise. So our purpose is to provide to promote for exclusively peaceful purpose the cooperation among European states in the space research, technology, and their application. If you see the two words in our convention, almost 50 years ago, which provide a really clear indication what you want to do. And the two key words are innovation and cooperation. Having said this, the area of activity are mainly around the four programmatic pillars, as you see here. Science and exploration, investigating what's happening in different planets, the nature, also interesting on the foundation of physics, of gravitational wave. We have a very interesting mission to understand how the gravitational field is changing. And on the top, on the exploration side, there is, of course, the component of human exploration. where we have the astronaut, we have a strong contributor of the International Space Station. The other area which we want to streamline in the last 5 or 6 years is safety and security. It's very important that somehow, first of all, we carefully monitor the space weather, so what's happening up there on the top of the Earth weather. We want to be sure that our satellites are in good condition and want to monitor the solar flare. Moreover, there is all the protection from all the debris. As you've seen yesterday, NASA landed on an asteroid and pick up some sample. Those are kind of analysis that we do it in collaboration are fundamental to protect the Earth on future catastrophes. And last but not least is also to support activity on the Earth from space. The third pillar is application, which is mainly divided in 3 main branches. The first one is telecommunication. There is navigation. We are working with the Galileo, which is a large constellation of satellites, which provide a very precise positioning. And last but not least, all the activity with the observation of the Earth. You know, the big program of Copernicus, which we developed for the European Union, but also meteorological satellite. Finally, in order to do all this, it's important to be able to do so. So there is a very strong part of enabling and support, which is, let's say, the launchers, to be able, of course, to bring a satellite on orbit. Then we have the technical team, which is contributing with the innovative R&D activity, testing, and operation. So if you see, the portfolio of the agency is quite diverse, one of the most diverse organization in terms of space. So we require a lot of skills, and we need really to share the knowledge across the different activities. Here we try really to highlight why we do knowledge management and what are our challenges. First of all, the main block is on the lesson learned, which is basically, it's very important to learn what we have been doing, the success, but also the failure that we have been acquiring during the 50 years activity in space, how we can access the relative information from the past. Another important element is really the knowledge from people, or in other words, how we can retain the core knowledge of the agency. We are facing in the last couple of years a larger time wave, a lot of top experts are leaving, and it's very important, very valuable for us to be sure that the knowledge is retained and is transferred, but also simply to find a subject matter expert. These are the 2 top areas. The other, as a support of this, there is this new area which we are building on. So how we can generate knowledge from information and data, and why we do this. Because it's very important to have a common language, common terminology across the agency. It's very important that information and data are easy, accessible, and exploited. Finally, we have the library. And we are part of a big transformation of the library. For us, the library is a key to access external knowledge like scientific publication, market analysis, business intelligence database. But also we have the opportunity to have a very nice space, physical space, which we need to modernize. We want to use that space in order to stimulate the knowledge management as a whole, but also the collaboration and the creativity. This is a summary which is provide an overview. As you say, the convention in 1975, there were some elements already there. There was existing activities scattered across the organization. There was the ISO, there was the ESA digital agenda for space, and we HR ran a very interesting staff engagement survey, which provides generally quite a good insight. So at the end of 2016, it was decided to launch this initiative. I mean, at the end of the day, at the beginning, knowledge for an organization like this, it's a word which is very well used. However, the definition of knowledge was not so clear. Therefore, we had the first 2 years focusing on launching pilot, really try to do like a business startup, try to understand what our customer, what is the customer discovery and validation at the end of the day. So it was launching a lot of initiative, very small, try to be as agile as possible, but really with the objective of listen and learn from our colleagues. Then in 2019, and now we are basically putting the clear priority, as you saw, streamline our message, refine the user need, but also make sure that the success pilot that were launched with a team in a specific group are operationalized ESA-wide. What is the next step? 2021, 2022 is basically to consolidate this process and this tool for an ESA-wide implementation, to make it systematic in our, let's say, activity. But moreover, we want, as in the duty of the agency, to foster the external collaboration. And of course, we have a target after 2022, which is move ESA culture towards openness and sharing, and build the space sector knowledge resources. So here is a little bit how we are organized. I think it's an internal slide, but for some of you, it would be interesting to see that we have a policy and the requirement, and we have plans at agency level, but also at directorate level. You have the team here, which is basically work hands in hands with the different directorate, leveraging a single point of contact for directorate, which somehow is tasked by the director of the different directorate to coordinate the knowledge management activity, but also with the administrative part, so with HR and IT, facility management, and the chief digital officer. And all this activity is part of, let's say, the digital ESA, the digital transformation of the agency. Those are the four areas. I will repeat, is basically all the activity that we do around the people, the individual. The second part is lesson learned. So it's basically the knowledge of the project, of the initiative as a collective group, supported by the two different functions of the ESA library and knowledge from information and data. I think is all from my side. I will give you back the floor, Ginetta.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Gianluigi. It's time for the breakout rooms. Rosio, if you can split our participants to each breakout room.
Okay, and we're back. Thank you.
Yeah.
Excellent session. Thank you very much.
Okay, welcome everybody. I hope you had a fruitful exchange and that your breakout room was so positive. I would start with the debrief, starting with the breakout room number 1. So, Gianluigi, Stefania, what's the outcome of your breakout room? Could you share this with us?
We replied to a couple of questions about how ESA is dealing with some problems. One of the problems we touched upon was what's the culture in our organization about when it comes to share things. And the reply is that, yeah, it's a challenge that everybody's facing, right? So we are trying to move also, thanks to the knowledge management activities, towards an open and transparent working environment. And we are trying to, for example, give the example, leading by example, as you say, by having top executive sharing their knowledge. So in a nutshell, we are trying to move there. Then we have been asked how you decide with action to do when you do the KRT exercise, and the reply is really case by case, topic by topic, people by person, and so it's very diverse. Another topic we had is who triggers the entire process, and in a very nutshell, the triggers is HR, meaning HR is providing us with a list of people retiring, and then the entire process starts. But a very good point and a very good question was raised by Gianluigi itself. Like he challenged the entire the entire group there, and it was, how do we make all this knowledge which we capture with that visible? And the problem is that and then the challenge is for us, but also for the agency. So it's good for us because it shows that we are, doing a good job, but also for the agency because, of course, knowledge is very important for us all. And I would ask Rajesh to summarize his experience about that. He was the first one to reply to this challenge. Rajesh, if you are here still, I would like to ask you to repeat and what you share with us briefly.
Thank you so much, Stefania. Thank you. And then hello or good evening to all of you. We are from Jakarta, Indonesia, and it's nice to join you guys. So one of the questions that asked us was the challenges between knowledge retention for culture within organizations, especially in this period, and as well as about COPs. There's this term that I said and I shared that was that we've spent many years breaking silos in the offices and we've done a pretty good job at it. Then COVID happened and we all got into silos again, the silos of our home, and security challenges made it challenging for us to do sharing as well. So the approach that we had, and when we talk about culture, it comes down to a couple of things first. First, it was strategy, and from strategy, you move on to leadership. And we worked with leadership for a couple of months, making them walk the talk, putting elements of KM into all speeches or everything that they made in conversations that they had. And with leadership doing that, everyone else then fell and followed the footsteps. And from there, we actually built, strengthened the culture that we had. Our worry, and that was the culture part. The COP part was actually part of how we got the motivated people in and got it self-driven. And things for COPs were then working quite automatically. We've come to the next phase now, and that is the challenge of how do we do this in the next generation or in the near future or post-COVID, whichever you call it, yeah? And that's where we are now bringing in elements of the chatbots and ML, machine learning and AI to get all of this done to bring us over to the next phase and to improve knowledge sharing, knowledge retention, extraction, and also the elements of knowledge co-creation, which is where people from everywhere else come together and create new knowledge, keeping that knowledge alive so that it doesn't expire when the person leaves the organization. So that was where we were at. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rajesh. That was very, very nice. Yes, that was from me.
Okay, thank you very much, Stefania. Andrew, what's the outcome from your breakout room?
Okay, so we had a very active dialogue. It was a very short time. Heather, are you connected? Do you want to just narrate your, it's highlighted here.
Trust was a really key challenge that I've experienced. I've worked pretty extensively with engineering groups in US corporations, often in situations where people are being asked to share lessons learned because organizational changes are happening and work is transferring from one region to another. So, my takeaway is lessons learned is such a great tool and it's great in a trusting organizational culture. When trust isn't there, it's like running into a brick wall.
We have addressed that through showing benefit. So showing the benefit. So it's not blind trust, it's a proof-based adoption. Maybe Joachim, you can just give us some background about your lesson.
First of all, let me tell you that I was just answering about how to transfer knowledge to the daily action, because this is one of the difficulties that I've found working with lessons learned. From my experience, and you've talked about it before, trust is one of the key aspects that we have to share when we share the learned lessons. It's not enough to introduce or to insert the learned lessons in the procedures of the organization, but you have to promote the application of those processes.
Yes.
And this is one of the keys that I think it would be very interesting to know how other organizations are working with this.
Okay. And basically for ESA, we have one individual who creates the lesson, another individual who has slightly more authority validates it, a whole body, 10 people then approve it and set the actions, and then the process owner then implements the activity. So you expand your community as you go, yeah? And the trust, the authority, the belief, the validation, because they get refined as they go, but we add more metadata, we all add more data to it. That is part of the momentum, and that hopefully that answers. I think we probably run out of time, so we will need to get on to the other. But thank you, everybody. It was very, very good. Very, very good.
Thank you, Andrew. Let's move with breakout room number 3. Alfonso.
Thank you. Well, we had a very, very interesting session also in the area for knowledge from information and data. Sundar, Marco, Dre provide with the very, very good challenges that we are getting to. One of them is security, text mining, standardization, also in terms of IT systems. And well, basically I picked two interesting topics, one presented by Florence Molin and one presented by Boris Lav. The first one is about the usage of taxonomies to improve search and knowledge and information retrieval. And the second one is about using knowledge graphs and knowledge map for visualization of knowledge. So even if we were discussing some other interesting topics, for me, these two are very, very, very relevant. Please, Florence and Borislav, if you can introduce a bit these topics to our colleagues.
Yes, hello. In fact, our knowledge management strategy is really based on a searching portal. And we are working a lot on taxonomy to improve our corporate search engine. For example, what we are trying to do, and it is working quite well now, is to be able to extract correct answers directly from paragraph instead of having a list of documents. And it is working quite well on structured documents. But we are facing the same problem. We have old documents, some 20-year-old documents, and it's not working on that documents. But when we are with structured documents, it's really working well. And we are trying to improve this method with algorithm to see if it can work on older documents. So that's it.
Hi, this is Borisov. What I shared was the kind of knowledge mapping visualization that I do, which is helping to implement the FAIR principles: findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable. And they dynamically grow and update with the information that is put into the underlying knowledge base. So the knowledge map basically visualizes the information that is there in the collection, and it finds connections within those bits of information to connect it together to become really knowledge. So this is how a person can explore visually any kind of collection of information. Or the other use case I mentioned is for subject matter experts, which is like mapping the subject matter experts of an organization, so a person can know which are my go-to people, for any kind of knowledge. How do I find them, and so on. So that's it in a gist.
Thank you very much. I think that it was very, very interesting stuff in our group.
So the discussion went fairly well. We were not that many people, and we nearly had enough time to let everybody finish its contribution. So we discussed 2 points. The first point is how do we accommodate knowledge management? How do we marry knowledge management and library service in the same space? And how do we stimulate collaboration and creativity? And there, Jacob had a very interesting contribution that I will ask him perhaps now to share with us. Jacob, can you share your ideas with us?
Thank you, Ronnie. I'll do my best. Hello, everyone. So yeah, with regards to library services and changing them to a knowledge center, basically, when we look at the classic library, it's always you see the librarian shushing at people for talking loudly, and that's basically where you need to turn the library culture around and make it more open, more inclusive, more sharing, basically. So what you want is to really get away from this classical sense of what the library is and make it into a more modern place that is supported by innovative cutting-edge technologies of different sorts that can actually help support the active sharing, make sure that the seeker is able to communicate clearly and find the knowledge holder, and also make sure that the knowledge holder gets to have a better access to the seeker, and that it isn't hindered by those classic or cultural barriers that you connect the classic libraries with. So instead of just having these walls of text, or which is just books, you need to make sure that you have these means for connecting people, for having people be able to collaborate in a more efficient way, and also having them giving them the opportunity to interact with each other and basically be able to get what they need from the other person. Because as some people say, then knowledge isn't necessarily found in books. It's only between the two ears. So it's in the head of people. Otherwise, it's more or less just information. So it's simply about putting down all the right tools, means, and measures to make sure that people can actively communicate with each other without being hindered by what you could call maybe traditional cultural restraints in the library space. As soon as you basically try and change the setting, you make it very, very apparent the otherwise tacit culture that you have in terms of knowledge management. So it's basically a way also to make sure that the culture change you want to have in terms of a knowledge management oriented culture, that it becomes more externalized, more explicit through the change of library services into something that is more, you could almost call it loud.
Thank you, Jacob. Second item that we discussed was the open access. Now, the open access problem is, librarians are confronted now with increasing bills for publication. And they've been looking for many years to open access as a solution for this. But so far, and open access has been around for 10, 15 years. This did not happen yet. And now we have the feeling, I have the feeling at least, that also triggered by the COVID crisis, that it's clear that open access to research is critically important for everybody. And open access must be the standard for all scientific publications. At the same time, there are people working to transform the business model. And we call this, well, read and publish agreements are being made. So I've thrown in the group what their opinion was on that. Laura, she wants to share with us what her experience in this is.
Hello, everyone. Yes, I totally agree. The group, and just like what Ronnie just mentioned right now, I am from the IFAD library. It's a small closed library, but we've been confronted with many challenges lately, especially in this very difficult COVID situation where a lot of our libraries, even in the UN system, are closed. So it's more digital. The prices have increased tremendously in the UN, and we're part of a consortia which manages the budgets with the publishers, has not assisted us this year because the prices have increased. So we're faced with taking decisions for our staff, and we have over 40 offices around the world, to limit ourselves and even remove some online subscriptions because the prices have increased tremendously. So what does that mean for our staff? The importance is to get the best external knowledge, and basically we need to cut that information, and the staff will not have the information that they really need because of these budget increases. So even through consortias and open access would actually help us relieve this possibility so that our staff get the best information. And there was a lot of appetite in our group for that. Our experience has been really for that open access.
But we're getting closer to the objective, and what Laura says was also confirmed by Anthony and Joel in the same group. So we had quite a nice discussion on that.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Ronnie. So now we have a Q&A session. I would like to ask Sarah if she can suggest us one or two questions for the ESA KM team, please. But if you have any other question for the ESA KM team, you can write an email to them to this email address I'm placing in the chat.
Thanks very much, Janetta. Some of the questions in the chat have already been answered, but I'll start with one from Rita Benitez, and she asks, is there an ESA KM policy document that you can share with the participants?
Unfortunately, no. It's an internal document, and I need to see if an extract of this could be shared.
Well, as I'm getting the questions from the chat, maybe I could respond to that, because the km4dev community has an open access community journal where we publish articles about strategies. So maybe I'd like to invite the ESA team if they would consider submitting a paper explaining their KM strategy. So that might be a sort of an option of potentially a platform to share it. Okay, so another question. Elvina and Riak, they asked how can they catch up with the learnings from today? What will be happening with the outcomes, the sheets and things like that?
That's a very good question. We need to digest, I think, all this input. That's why I'm happy that the whole team was participating, so we can really exploit or make the best use of this time. So with a dedicated discussion. And I should say maybe the best learning will be the presentation Stefania will make afterwards. And you will understand why.
And the final question from the chat was also from Rita Benitez, and she asks, are taxonomies being replaced by knowledge graphs, or is there a precursor?
It's a really good question. I mean, in terms of, for us, in terms of knowledge maps that we use the terminology in the taxonomy. So for us, the terms that we use to describe our products and the terms we use to describe our people are one and the same thing, and they mustn't always be there. So I would actually say that there's a huge overlap.
Okay, thank you, Andrew. Great. Well, that's the end of the questions in the chat. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, everyone. So now it's time for Stefania. Tell us what is the OSIP. It's the latest initiative that ESA KM launched just a few days ago.
Thank you. This popped out in a couple of occasions, especially in our breakout rooms. I will tell you what it is finally. So OSIP finally stands for Open Space Innovation Platform. And it's basically a website that enables the submission of ideas for space technology and applications. So, and then it works both ways, right? So on the one side, individual, business, organizations, university, researchers, really anybody who wishes to contribute to the European space research can submit ideas. And on the other side, it allows ESA to discover unconventional activities or ideas. And with unconventional, I mean not necessarily coming from the space environment. And it's an open platform. If you, thank you for the link, Gianluigi. You can click it there. And generally, if you go to ideas.esa.int, you will find it. And so in the first page, you will find our launch was literally 2 days ago, even less. Why we launched? Well, I mean, we want to increase the awareness of knowledge management activities at ESA. And also we want to identify new collaboration. We want to really create a dialogue between ESA and the European space ecosystem. We expect 3 types of ideas, which is the first one, we call it ESA for you. And we are looking for what ESA can do for you and the whole space ecosystem. It means how can ESA and its knowledge fulfill your needs, which type of ESA space knowledge you would use in your activities, or which type of problems can ESA knowledge solve. Second one is you for ESA, means what you can do for ESA. And it basically means which kind of solution, tools, methodologies, ideas, techniques in terms of knowledge and information management, of course, do you think can help ESA to pursue its mission? Last but not least, the things that we call the research together. We are looking for a research project or direction or ideas in also knowledge and information management to improve the development and implementation of knowledge management activities at ESA. Deadline is the 30th of November. I hope that by the time I'm speaking, everybody could access the URL. And if you have any other burning questions, practical questions, we are here. Otherwise, there is a chat in the platform itself, and or you can also reach us at the email address that Ginetta shared in the chat.
Is there any question? We have a couple of minutes.
I'd just like to say that I think this is a fantastic idea. You know, I think this is something that other organisations could share, because a few years ago there was, for example, a USAID call for lots of stories about development, and I always thought this was one of the best practices because you get stories coming from everywhere. And I think maybe we should also consider doing this for km4dev as well. I'm really excited about it. I just wonder what things you're going to have. So it would be great to have feedback on that. Thank you.
It looks super interesting, and I would love this for the organization where I work. But then I'm wondering, like, how did you guys get the mandate to accommodate this? Because this will generate initiatives which then have to be acted on, right? Which will also influence work of other people. I was just curious, like, did you drive this, or you had to get support in the organization?
I think concerning this call is, as you see, we have, if you open it, you have a sponsor, the Director General. It's a new mechanism that was introduced a couple of years ago to look for ideas. Of course, many ideas will be reviewed, and there is an evaluation board following some criteria. Of course, not all the ideas will be considered. The question is also, the plan of this is rely on the open innovation. It's not just ESA collecting ideas, but we ask also others to share the ideas. So we already received 2 ideas also of some research which want to share what they do, and using that platform so the other people can go there and read it. So it's much more broad. And concerning ESA, we have chosen carefully the board, the evaluation board, which part of the key top executive, like the chief digital officer, or the direct department head, which is the head of the program and policy coordination, in order to be sure that somehow the ideas are fitting the bigger picture. That's why also in the reference we give clear indication where about knowledge management in the agency, in the annex, what is our target, our priority, and we ask others to contribute to this. So in this way, we try to minimize a little bit too disruptive ideas. Any other questions?
Pretty clear. Thanks.
I think we are pretty close to the end. We have just a few minutes for ending this Knowledge Cafe. So from km4dev, I would like to thank you, Gianluigi, and his team for having shared this fantastic project with all the km4dev community, and not only. We have a lot of participants. We are outside this community. I would like also to thank you, Rocio and Sarah, for supporting me from a technical perspective, but especially to all of you for having made this Knowledge Cafe so successful. From km4dev perspective, I would like to invite you to join our next Knowledge Cafe. The new one is in Spanish on virtual collaboration, and it will be tomorrow. We will have another one in November in English, and another one in December in English. If you want to stay tuned, just go on our website, which is www.km4dev.org. Or maybe you can subscribe on our LinkedIn page, which is called KM4Dev.
Thank you. I think on behalf of the whole team, it was a tremendous experience for us, being part of sharing our experience, but also to learn from this community. And big thank really to Rocio and Sarah, but a special thank to Ginetta for all this work that we've been doing this. And thank you for inviting us.
Our pleasure, really our pleasure. So if anyone wants to be part of the tomorrow Knowledge Cafe in Spanish, I'm copying and paste the Zoom link for the registration in the chat. Thank you very much again to all of you, and have a good rest of the day. And of course, arrivederci.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.